האם זה באמת סגולה בדוקה? הסגולה ללמוד בזה?
Erev Tov, good evening, Dover Vietcher. We are in the Zera Shimshon on Parsha Shoftim. We're doing Osches, section number 8. Before we jump into it, let's take a look at two psukim, not from our Parsha, two psukim from the Haftorah. And the first pasuk is the first pasuk in the Haftorah. And I know some people say Haftarah, so if that's better for you, Haftarah, but I'm old-fashioned. I call it Haftorah. Anochi, Anochi hu menachemchem. This is from Sefer Yeshaya, Perek Nun Aleph, Pasuk Yud Beis. Again, first pasuk in Parsha Shoftim Haftorah. Anochi, Anochi, I, hu menachemchem. I am the one who will comfort you. Mi at vatir'i me enosh yamus. Who are you that you are afraid of mortal humans? Umi ben adam chatzir yinosein. And from people who will be given over to like grass. So Hashem says, I'm the one who can truly comfort you, help you, and support you. So why are you afraid of mortals and weak humans who die and who leave this world, are cut down like grass? That's the first pasuk. Now, later in the Haftorah, this is Perek Nun Beis, the next Perek in Yeshaya, pasuk Yud Beis also. And the pasuk says, this is actually should sound familiar. We discussed it last week. Ki lo bechipazon teitzeu, because you will not go out in haste. This pasuk is both psukim are talking about in the future geula, the future redemption. You will not go out from exile in haste. Uviminusa lo selechun, and as one who flees, you will not go. Ki holech lifnechem Hashem, because Hashem will go before you. Ume'asivchem Elokei Yisrael, and the God of Israel will gather you in. So in the future Geula, we won't have to leave quickly like we did in Mitzrayim. Will be nothing to be afraid of. There'll be no hurry. Everything will be totally relaxed because Hashem will be directly redeeming us in the future Geula. That's a theme in the Haftorah, and those are the two psukim that the Zera Shimshon is going to mention here in Osches section 8. Let's jump right into the text of the Zera Shimshon. Midrash Yalkut. The Yalkut Shimoni states, Omar Rebbe states on the pasuk in the Haftarah that we just read, the first one. Omar Rebbe Abba, Omar Rebbe Shimon ben Lakish. Rebbe Abba said that Rebbe Shimon ben Lakish said, Mashal lemelech. The pasuk in Yeshaya that we read, it brings is similar, brings up the story of a king, Shekaas al Matrona, who became angered with the queen. Utirada vehotzia, and he troubled her and made her leave mitoch palatin shelo, from his palace. La'achar yomim, after some time passed, bikesh lahachazira, he sought to bring her back. Amra, the queen said, yichpo li ksubasi, double my ksuba. The ksuba is, of course, the marriage document that a man must give his bride, his wife, when he marries her, and they hold on to it. And the ksuba specifies the amount of money that would go to the wife if the husband divorces her or if he dies. So she says, the queen says, Yichbo li ksubasi, I want you to double my marriage settlement, v'achar kach yachazireni, and afterwards you can bring me back. Kach Omar HaKodesh Baruch Hu. So says Hashem li Yisrael, to the Jewish people, top of the column on the left. B'Sinai amarti lochem pam achas. At Har Sinai, I said to you only one time, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem your God. The word Hashem, and the first of the Aseres Hadibros said at Har Sinai is Anochi, and it's only said one time. Uvu Yerushalayim le'osid lovo, but in Yerushalayim in the future, for the future redemption, Ani omer lachem shtei pa'amim. I will say to you twice, Anochi, Anochi hu menachemchem. I am the one who will comfort you. Ad kan Lashono, until here is a quote from the Yalkut Shimoni. So on the simplest level, the Yalkut Shimoni takes a look at our pasuk that we quoted from Yeshaya about I am the one who will comfort you. Why are you afraid of human beings? And it says that is reminiscent or reflective of a story of a king who tells his queen to leave the palace and then wants to bring her back. And she says, I'll come back, but you have to double my ksuba amount. And so too, the Yalkut Shimoni says that's what Hashem is saying. I said Anochi once, but I'm going to double that now in the future Geula, because I say Anochi, Anochi, I. Top of the next page, moving to the next page, column on the right. Koshe, this is difficult. Ma yitain uma yosif li Yisrael. What is being given and what is being added to the Jewish people, shevach, in terms of their benefit, kaful, double, shel milos anochi, of the word anochi. How does that help us that Hashem said anochi, anochi twice? Dema nafkamina, because what practical difference does it make? Im yomar pam achas, o shtei pamim. If Hashem says anochi once, or Hashem says anochi twice, how is there a practical difference? How's there an actual benefit to the Jewish people by Hashem repeating the word Anochi? Ve'od, and another question, Lama be'emes yichpol lahem. Why actually, in truth, why did Hashem say it twice? Uma inyan kefel zeh. What's the significance of this doubling? So the Zera Shimshon is asking a twofold question that's really kind of the same question, but in the way he formulates it, Zera Shimshon is saying the Yalkut Shimoni is making it seem that Hashem is making this major pronouncement when he says to the Jewish people, at Har Sinai I only said Anochi once, but in the future, at the Geula, in the future redemption, I'm going to say Anochi twice. Zera Shimshon's two questions are, why would Hashem say Anochi twice in the pasuk in Yeshaya? Why does the Navi quote Hashem saying Anochi twice? And number two, in terms of the message of the Yalkut Shimoni, why is that such a big major pronouncement? What's the benefit? What's the practical benefit or difference to the Jewish people if Hashem says Anochi once or Anochi twice? So that's his starting point with those questions to get into analyzing this little excerpt from the Yalkut Shimoni. Umitachilo hayinu yecholim lomar. From the beginning, the first thing we want to be able to say, she'inyan kefel zeh, the significance of this doubling of Anochi, Anochi, hainu mima shematzinu. It's similar to that which we find, sheha'ones umefatech chayovim chamishim sela. The halacha is, and you can see the quote right from the Torah, Devarim and Gemara and Arachim, a person, a man who rapes a woman and a man who seduces a woman, chayovim chamishim sela. They are obligated to pay 50 sela, shehem masayim zuz, which equals 200 zuz. A sela coin equals 4 zuz, which is obviously a coin of lesser value. So in the Torah, it says that if a man rapes a besula, a virgin, or seduces her, he has to pay chamishim sela, 50 sela, which equals 200 zuz. Kimohar habesulos, that number 200 zuz is called by the Torah, is referred to by the Torah, the mohar, the amount given in the ksuba, in the marriage document, habesulos, of a virgin. If a man marries a besula, then the amount stipulated is in the ksuba has to be a minimum of 200 zuz, which is equivalent to chamishim sela, 50 sela, which the rapist or the seducer has to pay. Vehamotzi shemra al besulas Yisrael. However, a man who marries a woman and then slanders her and says that she was not a virgin and that she committed adultery after he married her, v'nimtza she'eno emes, and it's found that that is not true, that he was saying something false. That's called motzi shem ra. He publicized a bad name, a slanderous accusation against his wife, and said that after he did the marriage ceremony, she was with another man, after he did the kiddushin. Mishalem hakefel, he has to pay double the amount that the rapist or seducer paid, the hainu mea sela, which is 100 sela. So we had the onus or the mefata paying 50 sela, equal to 200 zuz, and now we find out that the motzi shemra, the man who slanders the wife, pays double that amount, which is 100 sela, 100 seloim, which is equal, of course, to 400 zuz. V'hachi nami din ha'isha shezinsa tachas bala, and we find a similar halacha regarding a woman who in fact did commit adultery after she was married to her husband. Yotza mitachas yodo, she immediately must go out from under his roof, from being married to him. Umafsedes ksubasa, and she loses her ksuba. The husband is not obligated to pay her any of the money stipulated in the ksuba, the marriage document. Ve'asura lachsor lo olamis, and she is forbidden to return to him forever. That means that a woman who is with another man while she's married to her husband cannot stay with him. He has to divorce her, and if later on they would like to reconcile and reunite and remarry, he's not allowed. They're not allowed to do that. He's never allowed to remarry that woman, and she loses her ksuba. So the onus and the mafata, the rapist and the seducer, pay an amount that's equal to the woman's ksuba, and the woman who commits adultery loses the amount in the ksuba. And the motzi shemra, that's the worst penalty of all. The man who slanders his wife and claims she committed adultery after kiddushin, he pays double that amount. He pays 100 seloim. Next paragraph. Im kain, if so, keshehamelech gerish es hamatrona, when the king divorced his queen, vehotzia mitoch palatin shelo, and he made her leave the palace, hare hotzia leha shem ra. This action of the king's brought out slander against her, shezinsa, that she must have committed adultery. She must have been with another man besides the king. And now when he wants to return her, nira boror, it would seem clear, shebodak badivarim, he must have checked out things, velo motzaba hemamish, and found his original accusation, his original suspicions not to be substantive. Sheha emes hu shelozin satachtav. Now he's discovered the truth of the matter is the queen was not with another man. Umishum hachi muteris lo, and because of this, she's permissible to him. V'lachein bo lehachzira, and that's why now he's taking actions to try and bring the queen back. So the Zera Shimshon is analyzing and taking apart the mashal, the parable of the Yalkut Shimoni about the king who sent the queen away. And he's saying that it's not just a case where the king decided, I don't love you anymore. It's a case where the king said, you have to leave, to the queen, you have to leave immediately because I believe you were with another man. And then she leaves. And now everyone's, it's terrible scandal. Everyone's talking about the queen who had to leave the palace and the king got rid of her because she was with another man. Her reputation is completely shattered. But then he finds out it's not true. It wasn't true. The accusations were false. And that's why he's trying to bring her back. And that's why it's permissible for her to return and permissible for them to remarry. Next paragraph. Umishum hachi hamatrona. And because of this, the queen Tova'as makes a claim, sheyichpola kizubasa, that her marriage document, the amount stipulated in the marriage document, should be doubled, kedin motzi shemra, exactly according to the law of a man who slanders his wife. Lefi shekevan shegir shami beis, so since the king chased her away, made her leave, expelled her from his house. Hayu hakol omrim, everyone was saying shehizinsa, that she was with another man, that she committed adultery. That's what everyone assumed. Why did the king in the middle of the night tell the queen immediately leave, and she had to have her ladies in waiting pack up all of her belongings and leave? Must be she committed adultery. V'zehu dinu mishpat shel hakefel. And this is exactly the law and the judgment of the double payment. This is why the queen is saying, demanding a doubling of her ksuba, ki hotzi shem ra al besulas Yisrael, because the king has brought slander, an evil reputation to besulas Yisrael, to a woman who was a virgin when he married her. Besulas Yisrael mamish. And the Yalkut Shimoni is saying it's not just the parable of the queen, it's actually the Jewish people who are sometimes referred to in Tanakh as Besulas Yisrael. The Ayin al Pasuk Zeh, and see on this Pasuk, Beraya Mehemna, in the Kabbalistic Sefer called Raya Mehemna. The faithful shepherd is how those words translate. So look there in that sefer if you want to see more on this pasuk. The pasuk being referred to is the pasuk in Yeshaya. V'zehu hatam, and this is the reason. Sha'achar sheyigalenu hakodesh baruch hu, after Hashem redeems us in the future, lo yiyelanu od golus. There'll be no more exile experiences for us. After the future Geula, the Geula Shlema, the complete future redemption, there won't be any more exile or subservience or shibud to the nations of the world after the future redemption. Top of the next column. Dichsiv, as it's written in the Torah regarding the actual Motzi Shemra, the man who slandered his wife, V'lo sihiyeh leisha, and to him she will be a wife, v'chule, etc. Lo yuchal shalcha kol yamav, he will not be allowed to send her away all of his days. So what's the pieces that the Zera Shimshon has put together for us show us, demonstrate to us that when the Yalkut Shimoni talked about the significance of Anochi, Anochi, I, and the parable of the king bringing back his queen, it all connects to the Torah's discussions, to psukim in the Torah that talk about the double payment that a man who slanders his wife has to pay. And in addition to that, the law, the din, that the slanderer, the slanderous husband, must remain married to his wife and cannot divorce her. If she wants to get away from him, that's a different story, but he's not allowed to divorce her. He's responsible to take care of her and not allowed to divorce her after he did this terrible act of slandering her. So similarly, that reflects after Hashem sends us into Golus, but has sent us into several Golios, but redeems us with the future Geula Shlema, the future complete redemption, then he will not be able to, so to speak, to send us away forever. After that, there will be no more Golus, no more exile, no more Shibud, no more suffering under the hands and authority of the nations of the world, just like the Motzi Shemra discussed in the Torah. Now, we're going to skip you skip with me the next paragraph that begins with the word, if you're following in the text, begins with the word umnum. Tell you why we're skipping in a moment. You can probably guess. Skip the next paragraph, vahatam, that begins with tam. Skip the next paragraph that says uvishas matan Torah. So now that's bringing us to the next page, daf tuf lamed aleph. The next page keeps coming down until you see the second paragraph on that page, al kefel milas anochi. That's where we're going to start in a moment. The reason we skip those paragraphs is because they delve into very deep and very mystical Kabbalistic ideas and concepts, which are so far above my knowledge and understanding that I'm not able to explain them to you at all, unfortunately. And so therefore we have to skip them. And I do ask your forbearance and understanding for that. Now we're going to pick it up. The subject that was being discussed in the paragraphs that we just skipped, the topic was, what's the significance of Anochi, Anochi, doubling the world Anochi, which of course goes back to the original Zera Shimshon's, one of his two questions. Why is that significant? My Inyan Kefel Zeh, what's the significance of the doubling? And that was explained again from a Kabbalistic viewpoint in those paragraphs. And now the Zera Shimshon takes another approach to that. Al kefel milas anochi, on the doubling of the word I, and meaning in the pasuk, referring to the pasuk in Yeshaya that we began with, od yesh lomar. There's another thing we can say, meaning in addition to the deep Kabbalistic explanation, there's another explanation we can provide. The Isa b'midrashim, it states in the midrashim, Shegeulos harishonos, the early redemptions, meaning all redemptions that happened before the ultimate geula shlema, the ultimate future complete redemption, every other type of redemption from exile, al yedei shehoyu biyad b'nei adam, they came about through the hands of a man, through people. Mishum hachi hoyu acharehen shibud, and because of that, because in our previous redemptions, human beings were involved as messengers of Hashem. Therefore, after we were redeemed, we at some later point went back into servitude. Aval geula ha'achrona, but the last redemption, the ultimate future complete redemption, tia biyad HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it will be done by Hashem. V'lo yiyeh od shibud achareha, and therefore, since it'll be done by Hashem, there will be no more shibud, no more suffering, subjugation, or exile afterwards. Ad kan lushono, until here is a quote from the Medrash Tanchum. Next paragraph. V'hine b'geulas Mitzrayim, and behold, in the redemption of Mitzrayim, the Yetzias Mitzrayim redemption, afal pi sheniskayim, even though there was fulfilled the words "Don Anochi" in the Bris Bein Abasarim, all the way back in Bereshis. Hashem said to Avram Avinu, he foretold to Avram that his descendants would be exiled from the land of Israel, and they would be called Eretz Canaan at that time, and they would be subjugated under the power of another nation. And Hashem says, Don Anochi, but in the end, I'm going to redeem them and judge. I will judge that nation. B'makas bechoros, and that referred to Hashem's direct involvement with the striking of the firstborn, the 10th plague. Dichsiv ba, it's written about that plague, the 10th plague, va'avarti, and I will pass through the land. And the Midrashim comment, and we know this from the Haggadah, and this is also discussed in last week's Shir, last week's Zera Shimshon discussion. I will pass through, ani v'lo malach, I will pass through and not an angel, ani v'lo shaliach, I and not a messenger. So Zera Shimshon says, even though Hashem specifically made the point of saying, Don Anochi, I will judge the Mitzrim, then that referred to the Makas Bechoros, the ultimate plague that broke the Egyptians' will and broke Paro's will and resulted in the redemption from Mitzrayim, the Yetzias Mitzrayim. Even though that's true that Hashem said that, and the Midrashim say, what did Hashem mean by I will pass through? He meant me and not a malach, I and not a messenger, etc. Mikol Mokum, nevertheless, Rov HaGeula Haya Al Yedei Moshe v'Aaron. Putting aside the Makas Bechoros, most of the other things that happened were done through Moshe and Aaron, meaning, of course, Hashem arranged everything. And if Moshe and Aaron initiated a plague at Hashem's command, Hashem is the one who made the plague strike the Egyptians and changed the natural order, the teva of the world, to bring about the plague and to bring about, of course, the Kriyas Yamsuf, to bring about so many things that happened that were involved in the Yetzias Mitzrayim. But nonetheless, Moshe and Aaron were directly involved. Umnam, however, Lasid Lovo in the future, Yeh hakol biyad hakodesh baruch hu. Everything will be directly through the hand of Hashem. V'lochein ksiv shtei pe'amim anochi. And that's why the pasuk in Yeshaya twice says anochi. Now we have the answer to the question that was posed in the very beginning and the significance of doubling of the word anochi. It's not just poetic. It's not just stylistic. It's extremely significant, because what Hashem was saying was, in the future, by the Geula Shlema, the future complete redemption, Anochi, I will do it. I'll be involved, but not just I'll be involved like I was with previous redemptions. Anochi, another Anochi. It'll be only Hashem will be involved in the future Geula. And that's the significance of Anochi. So when the Zera Shimshon asked, what's the nafkamina? What's the practical benefit to Klal Yisrael that Hashem says Anochi? We benefit because Hashem repeated a word twice, even though it's the word Anochi. What's the benefit? Answer here. The benefit is that after Hashem's direct involvement of redeeming us and bringing the Geula Shlema in the future, there will be no more Golus, no more exile, no more shibud, unlike every previous act of Geula, of redemption. Next paragraph. Od bederech acher. There's something else we can add from a different approach. Sheyadua shegeulas Mitzrayim hayisa b'chipazon. We know from the Torah that Bnei Yisrael left Mitzrayim hastily, in haste. They left quickly. Think of the not having, they were left so quickly, they didn't have enough time to make proper food, and they had to quickly bake matzahs. Omnam, however, losid lovo, in the future, ksiv, it's written, and this is the second pasuk that we read before we started this piece, so it's also from the Haftorah on our parsha, on Parsha Shoftim. Ki lo b'chipazon teitzeu. In the future Geula, you will not have to hurry. You will not go out as if you're leaving a crime scene or running to get out of there quickly before Paro changes his mind. You won't. That was Egypt. That was Mitzrayim. That was ancient history. That's not going to happen with the Geula Shlema, v'chule, etc., v'hainu. And this means shesham hutzruchu lehigoel b'chipazon. This means that there in Mitzrayim, we were needed to be redeemed quickly. Everything had to happen very quickly. Lefisha hayu mishukaim, because Bnei Yisrael, the Jewish people, were submerged bitumos in impurities, uvagilulim, and in idolatry, velo nitaru, and they hadn't been purified. V'hutzrach lehoyer lehem or gadol. And Hashem had to illuminate for them a great light, kedei sheyivruchu hamazikim v'hamekatrigim, in order that the accusers, the spiritual accusers and the spiritual attackers would flee from this great spiritual light. Kedichsiv, as a pasuk in Tehillim says, Tizrach Hashemesh ye'asefun. When the sun shines, the wild animals will be gathered in. The sun, when the sun shines, it chases away wild animals, and so too it chases away the powers of impurity, the attackers and the accusers against Klal Yisrael. Ve'achar yom, next column, ve'achar yom tov harishon. And after the first day of Pesach, meaning the first day of the actual Geula from Mitzrayim, Shekfar Yotzu, when Bnei Yisrael had already left Mitzrayim, Nignaz Oso Ha'or, that special light that was illuminated, Hashem illuminated to be able to take out Bnei Yisrael from Mitzrayim, was stored away. V'chozra hatuma limukoma, and the powers of impurity returned to their place. They came back into power. Kanoda, as is known, mikisvei ha'arizal, from the writings of the Ari, the great Kabbalistic master. Next paragraph. Umishum hachi, and because of this, la'osid, in the future, shetia geulas olam, which will be an eternal redemption. Tia kemo shachar sheholech, it'll be like a dawn that comes. Umeir ma'at ma'at, and it illuminates everything slowly, slowly, slowly and steadily. Ad sheyitoharu legamre, until it purifies everything completely. V'yikuyam bohem, and there will be fulfilled at that time of the future complete redemption. V'hoyo lo Hashem leor olam, Hashem will be for you like an eternal light. Since the light of that time that Hashem will bring, the great light that Hashem will bring, and the future redemption will continue to grow and continue to expand, and it won't stop, and it won't ever cease. Mishum hachi kosav shtei pa'amim anochi. That because of this, that's another reason why Hashem said the word twice. Because Anochi, Anochi, in reference to the future Geula, the future complete redemption that should come speedily in our days, that redemption, Anochi, Anochi, signifies to us Hashem saying, I'm going to bring the light, the Or Gadol of redemption, and it's just going to keep growing and expanding. I'm going to keep expanding the Geula, Anochi, Anochi. I will bring it like I did in Mitzrayim. But unlike Mitzrayim, I'll keep bringing it. I'll keep expanding it. I'll never let it cease. And there will be no more exile, no more suffering, no more subjugation, God willing, speedily as soon as possible. Yashar Koch for joining in the learning of the Zera Shimshon this week. We look forward, God willing, B'ezras Hashem, to learning again together on next week's Parsha.